Have you ever sat in a room full of people and felt like you were watching a movie in a language only you understood? You see the patterns, you see the contradictions, you see the disaster coming 10 minutes before it happens, but you say absolutely nothing. Most people think being highly intelligent is about winning trivia games or solving math problems. But if you're actually one of those people, you know the truth. A high IQ is often less about what you know and more about what you can't stop seeing. You live in a world where you are constantly filtering your thoughts just to fit in, dumbing down your observations so you don't sound arrogant, and staying silent because explaining yourself feels like a full-time job. One of the biggest things high IQ people think but never say is that the world is built for farmers, but they have a hunter brain. In psychology, the farmer mindset thrives on routine social hierarchies and following the rules without asking why. But the hunter brain, the one often found in those with divergent thinking, is wired for scanning the horizon, spotting anomalies, and lateral thinking. You walk into a grocery store or an office, and you immediately see 10 ways the system is inefficient. You see the waste, the pointless bureaucracy, and the unwritten rules that make no sense. You want to scream, "Why are we doing it this way? It's broken." But you don't. Why? Because you've learned that farmers hate being told the farm is poorly managed. So you just sigh, do the task the slow way, and keep your mouth shut to protect your peace. Research in cognitive psychology backs this up. Studies on what's called openness to experience, one of the big 5 personality traits, consistently show that high IQ individuals score significantly higher in this area. They don't just tolerate new information, they crave it. But in rigid social systems, that craving reads as restlessness. So they learn to hide it. Let's be real, if you have a high IQ, you often feel like a time traveler. Because you're a deep thinker, you process information so quickly that you can see exactly where a conversation or a project is going to end up. When a friend tells you about their new toxic partner or a boss announces a revolutionary plan that you know will fail by Tuesday, you already see the ending. You've seen this pattern 1,000 times before. You think, "I know exactly how this ends," and it's not good. But you never say it. You know that if you point out the flaw, you'll be labeled as negative or unsupportive. So you sit there, nod, and play the role of the social ghost, watching the car crash happen in slow motion while pretending to be surprised when it finally hits. This is actually called predictive processing, the brain's ability to build internal models of the world and constantly update them. In high IQ individuals, this system runs faster, pulls in more data points, and generates more accurate forecasts. The painful side effect? You're rarely surprised, and people often mistake your lack of surprise for indifference, when really you've just already processed the grief. There is a specific psychology of people who can't stand small talk. If you're highly intelligent, you don't just dislike it, you find it physically draining. While others are talking about the weather or what some celebrity did, your brain is busy replaying scenarios, thinking in multiple timelines, or analyzing the hidden intentions behind the words being spoken. You think, "We are wasting the limited time we have on this planet talking about nothing," but you can't say that. Instead, you develop what researchers call social withdrawal behaviors. You become hard to read. You skip social events because the mental cost of pretending to be interested is just too high. You'd rather stay home, talk to yourself, or listen to the same song on repeat while you dive into a topic that actually matters. What's fascinating is that neuroscience confirms this isn't snobbery. It's wiring. High IQ brains show greater activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part associated with abstract reasoning and long-term thinking. Surface-level conversation literally understimulates that neural network, which registers neurologically almost like boredom pain. This is a part of the high IQ mind that most people miss entirely: traumatic intelligence. Many highly intelligent people were children who grew up too fast. If you had to survive alone or raise yourself emotionally, your brain developed a rare kind of smart built on hypervigilance. You aren't just intelligent in the academic sense. You're an expert at reading the room. You can tell if someone is lying by the slight shift in their eye contact or the way they avoid a specific question. You notice the half-second pause before the answer, the subtle shift in posture, the word they chose not to say. Inside, you're thinking, "I know you're being manipulative," I see exactly what you're trying to do. But because you were raised to be the strong one, you keep that observation private. You use your metacognitive IQ, the ability to think about your own thinking, to stay 3 steps ahead of toxic people without them ever knowing you've even started the game. Developmental psychologists have a term for this: situational hyper-awareness. It develops as a survival mechanism in children who experienced unpredictable environments. The tragic irony is that the very thing that made life hard in childhood becomes a superpower in adulthood, an almost preternatural ability to read people, anticipate moves, and protect yourself long before others even sense a threat. High IQ people often feel like they have 10 lifetimes worth of interest trapped in one body. You are likely a polymath, someone who can't just pick a niche because your brain sees the connection between everything. You think, how can you only be interested in one thing? Don't you see how history affects this technology, which affects this art, which affects this economy? But to everyone else, you just look scattered or undisciplined. You never say out loud how lonely it feels to have a graveyard of unfinished projects that actually represent a massive, interconnected web of knowledge. You keep your multidimensional ambitions to yourself because you're tired of being told to just focus on one thing. What's worth knowing is that history's most transformative minds were nearly all polymaths. Da Vinci was simultaneously an anatomist, an engineer, a painter, and a musician. The cultural obsession with hyperspecialization is relatively modern, and it has very little to do with how brilliant minds actually work. There is a turning point for the high IQ mind. It's the moment you realize that most people aren't actually thinking about you at all. They are too busy managing their own internal noise. Psychologists call this the spotlight effect, the cognitive bias that makes us believe we are observed and judged far more than we actually are. Once you understand this on a gut level, something liberates inside you. Once you truly internalize that nobody cares, you stop trying to explain yourself. You start to embrace your weird habits. Talking to yourself, needing silence to think, having a very small circle of trusted people. You think, I don't need your validation because my internal world is richer than most people's external one. This is where your real power begins. You stop being too available for people who don't prioritize depth. You stop performing interest you don't feel. You stop shrinking. You start protecting your peace with a silence that is louder than any argument you could ever make. If you've spent your life feeling like an outsider, like you have to mute your own brain just to be accepted, understand this. The very qualities that made you difficult to categorize are the ones that will make you impossible to replace. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not scattered, arrogant, cold, or weird. You are a pattern reader in a world that rewards pattern followers. You are a long-form thinker in a culture addicted to short-form answers. Your silence isn't a sign of weakness. It's a sign of rare intelligence. You are the observer, the lateral thinker, the person in the room who already knows how the story ends, but has the discipline to let it unfold. The goal isn't to finally make everyone understand you. The goal is to stop needing them to. If this felt like someone reading your private thoughts, tell us in the comments. What is one thing you think constantly, but never say? Let's build the conversation that most people are too afraid to start. And don't forget to subscribe, and thank you for watching. Stay observant. Stay rare.